Hello, everybody, and welcome to Church at Home with Rachel for Tuesday, the 26th of May. I hope you're having a great week. I am going to talk to you today about backup singers and unsung heroes. Um, I don't know what I was thinking about the other day. I was doing something on my desk and realizing how often we give the credit to all the people who are up front. You know, the big singers like, the Taylor Swifts or the Liberace's or I don't know any classical music singers or the Tim McGraws of the world, how often we pay attention to them and we don't know the name of their bassist or their drummer or the person who cleans their microphones between sets. I was thinking very particularly about a group that we used to have in Canada, in the Anglican Church of Canada. It hasn't been around probably for close to 10 years. But it was a group of three priests, two of whom I think are retired and one is now a bishop, who are called the three cantors, sort of around the idea of the three tenors. They were the three cantors, and they would go around. They started in the Diocese of Huron, and they would raise money by singing for the Huron Hunger Fund, which supported the Primates World Relief and Development Fund, which is now known as Alongside Hope. And they raised, they must have raised well over $1 million over their tenure, probably over well over 10 years. They sang. Um, Oh, more than that, because they started when I was a student. Because Peter Wall, who retired as the dean of the cathedral, dean of diocese, rector of the cathedral at Christ Church in Niagara, the Diocese of Niagara in Hamilton. He was my first supervisor. He was my supervisor in my second year of my field education, and he was one of them. And William Cliff, who is my predecessor, who was at that time a priest in the Diocese of Huron, went on to become chaplain at Huron University College, and then elected to the Diocese of Brandon, and then in 2023, I think, elected to Diocese of Ontario. So I am sitting in his chair. Actually, quite literally, I'm sitting in his chair. Um, and David Pickett, who was a very, very talented singer, priest in a couple different dioceses. And they were incredible. They were funny. They had the ability to be sober and sing the good old hymns that speak of our faith, but they also sang some rip-roaring fun songs like Mac the Knife and things like that. They just had an incredible ability to pull together these beautiful harmonies as they sang all of them together as the three cantors. Um, One of their songs, New Words, was very powerful. I knew him as Bill then. Bill would sing about to a child about new words. Can you say moon? Can you say spoon? Things like that. It was incredible. Very, very beautiful. Um, and they got all this credit. And the thing is, they didn't sing a cappella. There was a gentleman in the background. His name was Angus Sinclair. And he would play the piano like like you've never seen anybody be able to play the piano or the organ for that matter. And he was absolutely phenomenal, but he was always in the background. And as far as I know, he made a lot of decisions about what their repertoire would be and where they would go next. He seemed like he was the group manager. But Angus didn't get a lot of press. He'd take a bow and he'd always turn red and blush. But he really was the backbone, I think, of the three cantors. Even though his name or his position or his leadership didn't show up in the title, it was very, in the liner notes of CDs, absolutely. But he was very happy to be in the background. And I got thinking also about other bands and other places and like artwork. How many pieces of art are famous because now it's a Leonardo da Vinci or it's for heaven's sakes, as someone who loves art, I can't think of any names right now. It's a group of seven. Maybe it's a Tom Thompson. If you've never seen Group of Seven or Tom Thompson's artwork, Google them. It is the penultimate Canadian art. Please check out those. And yes, for those Canadian art people who love the things, I know there are lots of others, and you're welcome to throw their names in the mix in the comments. But the fact is that we know the artists because they did this incredible art that got put out there for the world to see. But what we don't know is the name of the person who put that artwork out there. Most of those artists were prolific. They did incredible work, but they didn't generally go hawking their wares on street corners saying, hey, look at me and what I've done. They had curators and advocates who would say, you need to check out this work, or you need to this gallery needs to highlight their work. If you've never been to the National Art Gallery in Ottawa, Canada, Ontario, you need to go. There is a whole room filled, like wall to wall, like they're touching each other. There's so many of them, of groups of 7 and Tom Thompson works. And it is breathtaking. The first time I went there, Rob took me, and he'd been there before and he knew what was coming. So he let me wander accidentally into that room before he came in. And when he came in, I was in tears. So powerful. But recognizing that the power behind that artwork is indeed the artist, and is indeed, of course, God who created them and inspired them to paint, but also the person or the people who encouraged them, the people who then saw their artwork and took it out of their living rooms or off the stacks where they had them all piled up in front of each other as they continued to prolifically paint, and put them out there in the world to see. We don't pay enough attention to the unsung heroes. We don't pay enough attention to the ones who quietly go behind the scenes to make those heroes heroes. And when I think about our faith, and we think about the gospel and Jesus Christ, I think that's what we're called to do. I am calling my diocese, and we have a big triennial meeting in September called our Synod, the Gathering of the People, where we'll talk about things. And my theme for Synod will be revival. But I didn't want to wait until then to get there for people to start. So I have been preaching about revival and talking till I'm blue in the face. And some of my clergy who are with me the most are probably getting sick of it. But you know what? You can't love Jesus and not be revived. So revival is a thing. And I need people to understand how important it is that we share our stories, that we put Jesus out there for people to see. Too often, for some people, especially in our day and age, here's my Bible. This is where Jesus is for a lot of people. He's particularly in the first 4 Gospels, or the first Gospels, John, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, first 4 books of the New Testament. And then the rest of the New Testament all revolves around him in one way, shape, or form. But for a lot of people in our day and age, Jesus is just in here. They haven't heard the good news. His name is used in vain, or the churches have, the church hasn't always spoken well. Currently, we have this Christian nationalism that has nothing to do with this or Jesus. I'm just saying. It really doesn't. We don't offer Jesus to people in a way that's meaningful and has integrity the way we should. And that does not mean, when I talk about revival, it does not mean standing like the guy from Independence Day on the corner of the street in New York or Washington or wherever he was with a big cardboard sign saying the end is coming. No, if that's your call, if you have the gift of gab and you are attractive, like you have those charisms that you can stand on a street corner and talk about Jesus without totally turning people off him, fill your boots, go for it. But most of us are called not to do that, but to share our faith in Jesus, to share what we know him, even our questions and our doubts, because I've discovered in my life that when somebody is hardcore, I know absolutely everything there is to know about this, that turns me off. Even about hockey. I meet somebody who's like the total guru in hockey and I'll walk away. What I want is to have a good debate. I want to talk. I want to listen. I want to learn. I want you to challenge me, and I wanted to be able to challenge you. So the people that I've talked to the most about Jesus in my own life, who have shaped me and formed me, were not the people who knew everything, but the very people who would be willing to say, this is an argument I will die by. This I'm never going to change my mind about. But this one over here, I don't know. I don't know what eternity looks like. I know what I hope it looks like. And I know that as I've grown older, that has changed because my understanding of who I am and my relationship to God has changed. My hopes for the world have changed. But I don't know. But what I do know is I feel drawn to this God, this man named Jesus. And it's changing my life. That's what I want people to do. I want people to become the Angus, the curator of the museum, the one who puts Jesus forward so that other people might see him and come to know him. We don't need credit. We're not, St. Peter's not going to stand up. I know this I know this, 99% sure of this. We are not going to get up to the pearly gates and have St. Peter standing there with a clipboard saying, did you pronounce that Jesus Christ is Lord and Savior to every person you ever met? If there was a clipboard, I don't think there is, but if there was, I imagine St. Peter would be saying things like, well done that day you had coffee with somebody and simply offered to pray. Or well done when you were talking to that teenager who was really frustrated by everything she knew about the church, and you confessed to her that you had questions and doubts too. Well done for being the Angus who played the piano. Well done for being the curator who established the gallery and the showing of the artwork and stepped back to let the artwork shine. You don't have to be Jesus in the world. You just need to be the one who shares Jesus with the world so that he can shine. We don't need credit. We really don't. We'll get it, but we don't need it. We just need to let God have the credit and let Jesus meet people and people meet Jesus. So that's how I think that revival will work in my own diocese, in my own province, in my own country, and yours too. You don't have to be the upfront guy. You can definitely be the backup support. And you'll have just as much influence as the guy who's up front. Well, Jesus, if he's the one up front, has a bit more influence than we do, but you know what I mean. Have a great day. God bless you, and I'll see you again tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachel.